the bigger idea is, what if I could burn a hash, attach it to a Satoshi? Or what if I could inscribe any piece of rare data and I could put it onto the blockchain forever?
In today's video, Michael Saylor, Executive Chairman of MicroStrategy, discusses Bitcoin ordinals, transaction costs, MicroStrategy's long-term vision, and the future of money.
I think we've, with all technologies, there's a period where people experiment with them without any material commercial success. And that can go on for years. Like Google Glass came out a decade ago and no one made any progress on Google Glass apps for a decade. So sometimes, people tried to fly in the year 1500, and the New York Times said flying machines will be impossible like 60 days before the Wright brothers figured out how to fly. So you have these periods when things aren't commercial, and then you have a period where they become commercial. And I believe we crossed over into a commercial zone about a year ago in AI. So for the next decade, you're going to see ferocious innovation and advances that will be astounding in AI. And it represents both an extreme opportunity for the human race, profound opportunity, and an extreme threat for the human race. So we can talk for hours about all the opportunities. And so I don't want to leave you with the impression that I don't think it's profoundly productive to the human race. I think it could unleash a brain power revolution in the same way that internal combustion engines gave you a horsepower revolution. A Roman trireme with 300 rowers had 30 horsepower 2,000 years ago. And now any fisherman has 300 horsepower. So the fisherman is more powerful than Julius Caesar. That's the horsepower revolution that drives our cars and our boats and our planes, and it is profound and it elevated civilization. The brain power revolution, in a nutshell, is Michael Saylor has 2,000 people that work for him, and he pays $350 million for 2,000 brains. But you may get 2,000 brain powers, and you may pay nothing for it. So what happens when you launch your own company with 2,000 AIs, and they actually do $350 million worth of work, but you don't pay $350 million. Maybe that's profound in the same way that 300 horsepower on a fishing boat is profound, instead of 3,000 slaves rowing, right? So I do think there's revolutions coming everywhere. I think the threat could be best articulated as this, and there's a million threats. I'm going to talk about two threats. The threat in cyberspace is I can spin up 100 million AI bots to take over Twitter or Nostr or Instagram or Facebook or Google. And they're more intelligent than I am, and they're more charismatic than I am, and they work harder than I do. And that means that I could use those to distort any kind of reality. If I want to be Katy Perry, I can create Katy Perry. I can create 100 million of Katy Perry's fans, and I can create...
Interesting choice, but yeah.
50,000 Katy Perry superfans. And it's all just a fictitious creation in AI land, because the cost to create an entity has gone to zero, okay? So that's a threat, because now the question is, can you trust anything unverified anywhere that you hear? In my personal experience, when I encountered toxicity on Twitter, 95% of the time, the toxic comments weren't coming from real human beings. They were coming from bots that were created by first-generation bot programs. So imagine the third-generation bot program, which is indistinguishable from a person with a PhD. So I could always tell the first-generation bots because they had bizarre names and they had like JPEG images, and they looked stupid. But the problem of third-generation bots is they won't be distinguishable by any human being. They will be more human than a human. So the risk in cyberspace is I can spin up 1 billion fake people, and I can create a civil war by having the fake Republicans hate on the fake Democrats, or the real Democrats having the fake Democrats hate on the real Republicans, and having the fake women hate on the real men, and having the fake men hate on the real women, until everybody thinks everybody is disrespectful to them. And by the way, maybe this is happening now.
Yeah.
Maybe it just happened with the first generation technology, and that's why we have the cultural divides we have. But imagine when I can do it 1 million times cheaper and better with the next generation technology. I think that the implication is we can no longer allow people to create millions of accounts. Yeah, the other day there were probably 2,000 fake accounts that followed me on Twitter in one day, which means there's 750,000 fake people following me on Twitter every year. No, legit, I saw it. I literally saw in a matter of 1 hour, 1,500 bot accounts got scrubbed off my account in 1 hour. And they were bots. So we can no longer live with that status quo. So the issue is, how are you going to actually create integrity in cyberspace? And I think the simple answer here is you actually create a public-private key identity pair like they use on Nostr, but then you have to actually inscribe it on the Bitcoin base layer with a transaction. So I determine Michael Saylor's public key is this on the Bitcoin base layer. I publish that to the world's most immutable database that's immortal, that's indestructible on a transaction that cannot be interdicted. If I do that, I've got an orange check. It might cost me a quarter once in my life, but now you've got an immutable identity. If you tie that to your Twitter identity, now if someone wants to launch a billion Twitter bots, it's going to cost them a billion transactions, and that's going to be $1 billion. You end up with a cost to mount a billion repetition attack. But B, if you become a fake person, if you generate 10 million fake people, and I catch you in my screen and I block you, it costs you $1 or $10 or $100. So by conjoining or by combining the power of cryptography with the power of a decentralized crypto network like Bitcoin, I can bring cost and consequence into cyberspace. Okay, and I'll give you an example of cost and consequence in real space. Gravity and friction. And if I take away the gravity, you float away. Yeah. And if I take away the friction, you can't walk across the carpet. And so no machine can work in the universe without conservation, thermodynamics, gravitational laws, etc. No machine can work in cyberspace without the same thing. And so I think that the AIs have just taken us to the natural conclusion, which is cyberspace suffers from toxicity. And in the absence of a cost, of a thermodynamic cost to do something, you cannot trust the thing you see. And so it's inevitable that we're going to actually introduce this idea of cryptographic verification. And once I've done it, then I can digitally sign every document. And if this interview with you and I, we'll finish it. How do you post it to 10 different platforms and sign it? Because if you post it to Twitter, you might be able to sign it with a gold check.
Yeah.
It's going to cost you $1,000 a month and $12,000 a year to have a verification sitting in a centralized database at Twitter. And it won't work on Facebook, Google, YouTube, Snapchat, TikTok, iMessage, and Telegram, and Reddit. So if you wanted to have a universal authentication, you would create an orange check, and you would actually burn the orange check in the blockchain into Bitcoin's blockchain. You would publish it to Twitter and TikTok and Instagram and iMessage, and you would tell everybody, if you get a message from me or you see work of mine, it needs to be signed with this orange check identity. And if you did that, then you would have some defense when I spin up an AI, because my AI can copy you, copy me, and create 10,000 hours of interviews of the two of us, where you say anything I want you to say, and I say anything the robot master wants me to say, and it will look just as good or better than this interview.
Right.
And the issue is, how can I tell the difference between the fake and the real? And the answer is only with a cryptographic proof that's thermodynamically sound.
And is that a technology that's being developed mean, you spoke about Twitter. I know you've had contact with Elon Musk. Is this a conversation that perhaps you've had?
MicroStrategy is working on a project in this area where we want to plug Bitcoin's security, the cryptographic security, into enterprise security of any corporation. And I know that Block has projects on decentralized identity where they're studying how you can blend cryptographic security in the modern world in a decentralized way that relies upon an open permissionless protocol like a Bitcoin. So I think there are a lot of people that are looking at this right now, and I think you'll see people focused on it a lot more over the next 24 to 36 months as they see the threat coming from the new AI bots.
Is this an idea you've run by Elon Musk, seeing as you mentioned Twitter and bots and the problems that presents?
I have on occasion tweeted to Elon that he should adopt the orange check in order to provide integrity and security in Twitter. And he's adopted the gold check, and he's adopted some of the blue checks and a black check. But we haven't quite gotten to the orange check yet. I'm going to keep tweeting at him. People in the crypto ecosystem are losing faith in every crypto asset except Bitcoin, and the capital is flowing from the other crypto assets to Bitcoin. The regulators are attacking every crypto exchange, every DeFi exchange, every crypto token, every cryptocurrency except Bitcoin. If you read 10,000 pages of hostile regulatory action, the word that's conspicuously missing is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is actually the low-risk asset. It's the ethical asset. All this crypto development effort that was taking place on the other cryptos, I think all the developers realized that when the dust settles, the only network that's still going to be around, the low-risk network that is least likely to be stopped by the regulators is Bitcoin. So if you're going to build on something, you want to build on a network that is the most secure politically and the most secure technically. If you're going to run on gas, if the gas is an unregistered securities, it's securities fraud. Okay, it's illegal. It's unethical. You're going to jail. Okay, so using gas that's a token that's deemed an unregistered security is an ethical lapse. So what you see here with ordinals and inscriptions is you see intelligent developers saying, who's the winner? Bitcoin. What's the ethical network? Bitcoin. Which one is least likely to get me shut down? Bitcoin. Which one is technically most sound? Bitcoin. So what did I do? I did all these other things. Well, can I do them on Bitcoin? Sure, I can. And if I'm doing them on Bitcoin, then I have a reasonable chance of commercial success, right? Like if you burn a monkey JPEG and you burn it on an unregistered security and you're wash trading the unregistered security, okay, it's unethical and it's also stupid. If you burn it on Bitcoin, it just may be stupid, but it's not unethical or illegal. So I'm not here to endorse ordinals or any particular. I'm not a crypto dick butt person. Like I'm not gonna support, or promote that sort of thing. However, the bigger idea is, what if I could burn a hash, attach it to a Satoshi? Or what if I could inscribe any piece of rare data and I could put it onto the blockchain forever? Well, there are certain types of messages that I would want to send where no one could stop them. If I needed to get a message from point A to point B in the middle of a war, and I was being denial of service attacked, and I wanted a network that could actually overcome a nation state attempting to stop me from sending the message, Bitcoin is the way to send the message. If you had $1 billion document, I have a will, it's got $1 billion in it. I basically sign it, 30 pages, I create the document, and then I put it in a vault. And 35 years from now, some lawyer takes it out and they change a few words and they just redirect all the money to someone else and nobody knows. The witnesses are dead, the notary is dead. How do you make the will tamper-proof? Well, the answer is simple. I take the will, I hash the will, I burn the hash on the Bitcoin blockchain. I say Michael Saylor, inscribed his will on this date. There's the hash code. And then I tell my heirs and my lawyers and the entire general public, there's the hash. The will comes out, they hash the will. Does it match the hash? If it does match the hash, then that's probably the will. And if it doesn't match the hash, then whoever's trying to defraud the general public is not going to be able to get away with it. So there are ethical, economically sound reasons to burn a hash or burn a timestamp into the blockchain. Corporate resolutions are a simple example. Companies make resolutions all the time that they keep secret from the general public, but have billion-dollar impacts. And 10 years from now, they have to prove that they made the resolution and stamp it. Right now, a lot of those documents are burned into DocuSign or some proprietary database that may be run by some company you've never heard of, and maybe they will tamper with it, maybe they won't tamper with it, and you will never know. So I think that there will be 100,000 different applications launched. And 99% of them you won't like them, and maybe they won't be good. But I've lived long enough to see lots of ideas I didn't like be successful. And I've lived long enough to know that 0.1% will be screamingly successful.